this is a program, that the guild has put together, and lots of people have sent me great things. And I'm going to, let me just.
How do I turn this on?
Okay.
Not yet.
Not
Okay.
Okay, we're still waiting. Here it comes. Okay. Yes, that's for you. All right, I wanted to say a few things. First is that, first of all, thank you to the membership for sending their hacks. There are tips and tricks for me. If you sent one in, hopefully it's in the booklet. If I don't give you credit for it, if your name's not there, it's because I probably got it from several people. If you sent me a hack and it's not in the booklet, then I just messed up, and we'll get it in the thread line, so let me know. There's so many great tips and tricks out there, and this does not by any means cover the subject. I continue to think of new things. Oh, didn't put this in, didn't put that in. There's just a ton of things to do. And one thing you'll see with this is that you have to decide for yourself what works for you. What works for me may not be the same thing that you like to do. I like to wind my floating selvages on the back beam. But there are lots of people that do not like to do that. They like to hang theirs off the back. So, you're gonna find out what works for you. I always say there's no weaving police. You figure out what works for you.
If I had a whistle, I would.
You would be the weaving police? Yes. Did everybody get, because I have plenty more booklets.
Everybody back there get one?
I've got.
I need one.
And Gay, I have plenty more.
Either that or you can email.
I have more.
You did not get one.
All right. Does everybody get a booklet? There will be numbers with the pictures, and the numbers correspond to the number of your, on the things I tried to number the hints on here. I do not have a picture for every single one of them. I'm not going to read the book to you, but anyway, we have some of my favorite ones, and ones that other of you have sent in. So hopefully we can see this well. And again, these are from our members here of the San Antonio Hand Weavers Guild. And let's.
And I just did this with the mouse.
I think if you just have that, you just did, and that.
That came up. I tapped that. That is what I tapped. I tapped.
We don't want to end the show.
Next.
We can do next. And
Yeah, but that's not
we
very
do want to
pretty.
get rid of that.
That's not.
Escape.
Okay, escape.
There you
Okay.
go.
There we go.
And use your
But-
arrows.
The arrow. What did you do?
You just the middle.
Okay, just the middle. Just
Sorry.
okay.
Okay. Irwin clan. Nancy and BJ, this is a rattle. I mean, this is a warping board, and this is a rattle over there. But there's lots of other things you can use those big clamps. There's many things, hardware stores. Hardware stores are your friends. There's so many things that we can find at hardware stores to use for weaving. So Irwin clamps are good for a multitude of things. Like I said, Nancy Novak, had her warping board on there, and we'll see BJ showed how she warps back to front, and so we'll see more of that. But lots of times with looms you don't always have ways to attach things, and those clamps are great for that. Okay? Oh,
How do I go back?
Back here.
I'm going to stick
okay.
one.
All right. So you're winding your warp, and you've got to stop a hemostat. And hopefully you have a medical friend. If not, they sell them on Amazon. They will hold your thread tightly, and not just for winding on. Anytime you need to have a thread held where it won't get loose, unwind, hemostat will lock that thread and will not let it move. If you're winding on more than one color, and you've got to stop, you know, Betsy was just talking about doing 3 colors. We do an coloring weave where we had, you know, to change colors over and over again. On a warping reel or on the warping board, put your C-clamp and put your cone on the C-clamp, and that will hold it while you wind your next color. This was Ross's. She was actually, you know, and she was alternating with 2 colors, and with her little cone, she just held it on with the rubber band, the smaller cone that wouldn't as easily fit on the C-clamp. You can hold them out of the way. You don't have to keep tying off every time. It takes a little bit of the pain out of weaving multiple colors in a warp. Nancy Summers likes to separate the layers of her cross. She uses little paper strips here, and that makes it much easier. You can just slip your leaf sticks right in there. I always use my umbrella swift horizontally. I find it much easier, but again, everybody gets to decide this for themselves. I much prefer to put the cone right underneath it and wind away, and it just goes right on easily. To me, are the same thing. You go in a straight, you know, get a straight line to your ball winder and wind it. If you have trouble with it slipping where it won't stay, I have just a little rubber band wrapped around here so it doesn't move out of place. But try it and see if you like it. I never use a swift upright. I always put it horizontally.
It seems to catch less.
I'm sorry, what?
It seems to catch less. It seems to.
It catches less. I just find it works better. Now I've got the beautiful shacked. I wanted to show it with the regular because I always did it with my old one, but I now have the shacked one that bends horizontally. And it's made, and you can go either way, and I love it. Alrighty, we got several here. We've got the number beads. You can get number beads at the craft store or on Amazon. This is to help you keep track of your treadling. If you have a long treadling repeat, you can thread the beads. The number of the bead correspond to the number of your treadle, and just move your beads as you treadle that thing.
If you put 2 strands of cotton instead of something slippery, the beads don't slide. So when you move it, it stays moved.
Okay? I try to have mine big enough so that I move it far enough. And if I'm going to be gone, and I put that in the booklet, I will put a little tape. If I think something might happen to those beads while I'm not at the loom, I'll put a little tape there. This arrow right here is pointing at a 0 center adhesive tape measure. Nancy Cronister found these at the Oregon Rule Company, but they're tough. You almost have to, I think, email them and say, I'm looking for a 0 center adhesive rule, because just going through their rulers, but they say, they say they have them.
And they come in different lengths.
And they come in different lengths.
And come in metric yards. Yeah, I have a whole drawer for them.
And there, you know, it is great. You know, I don't know if you spend a lot of time like I used to with the tape measure. Where's the center? How far out? You know, this is great. You've got your 0 in the center, and you just go to your right and your left. Has that many inches as you need on either side to have that.
And I will say, you have to have a minimum order, so if you're planning on ordering, talk to your friends and see. So when I've done it, I've had to have a minimum order, yeah. Because they're not very expensive.
And I think
And the minimum order isn't all that much, but.
no, you have to have like $10 worth or.
20, I think it's
$20.
something like that.
But yeah, and they do say that on the website.
Yeah.
I like to hold my cross in my hand, but sometimes it's, you know, it's not always convenient, or you need to get up. This is a spaghetti form.
We are so noisy.
That you can secure on your loom, and you know, you can lay that cross in there. It will not go anywhere. It's really handy to have. In some ways it can be easier than leaf sticks, but again, it's personal preference. If you love your leaf sticks, that's fine. Yes?
I was going to say about the number beads.
Yeah.
I also use those for threading.
Yes. Oh.
You know, and then you don't have to keep going up and down to a paper. You know, you just slide it over as you put it in.
Very good. So, threading and treadling with the number beads.
Me.
You. Okay. Rossa sent this in. She likes to have a piece of blue painter's tape with the sticky side out, and as she threads her ends, she sticks them on the end right there, and then when she's ready to tie a knot, they're in line, they're even, they're ready to go, and she just grabs a little bit, knots them, and then is ready to do the next section. Okay?
I'm gonna take a picture, hang on, I'm gonna take a picture real quick.
Okay? There is, you know, like I say, number 12, it's described, but that's the picture. And I will tell you, if you do not have blue painter's tape within your weaving supplies, you need to have it, because there's so many things you can do with blue painter's tape. This is a block of wood to raise your harnesses to make it easier to thread. Nancy Chronister brought this in, and it makes it just so much easier. It will not work on all looms, but it really raises, you know, raises all your harnesses. You've got, you know, you've got them up at eye level, and it really makes them easy. If you don't have a block of wood, you have no way to get a block of wood.
Use a book.
Nancy Novak, you know, suggested what, you know, you could use a box of Kleenex. You know, really anything of that size can lift your harnesses up, and it makes your threading much easier. Yes?
If anybody needs a block of wood. Tell me what size. Oh, that's I have shops.
And you know, just
Well, 4x4, 2x4, 2x6, 2x12, you just let me know.
lighting. You got to have good lighting to thread, and often to weave. And there's so many, you know, there's so many different things. This is a little music stand light right here that can be plugged in or used with the battery and clip. Rossa found these work lights, and hers that she got at Home Depot is better than mine, because my Home Depot didn't have them, because hers has a much bigger magnet on it. If you don't have a castle on your loom, it can be hard to find a place to clip a light. You can use, and I have these at H-E-B, you can use your little, you know, they have the little and your little headlight, which is very handy. But these work lights, and mine has a little magnet. Ross's has a big, much stronger magnet. You put it on your reed, like she has it right here, you know, and you've got that light shining right there. No more cross threads, I'm sure, when you've got good lighting, and that is, you know, that's really crucial to find whatever works. A desk light, clamp light. There's, you know, there's lots of possibilities.
Home Depot also has sticky back LED strips, and you can put them under your reed, your feeder bar.
Where do you
right
get
above the
those?
reed. They now, mine plugs in, but they now have battery powered
Strip
ones,
lighting.
and they're like $14. And you can get, if you have a wide loom, they have little connectors and you can put them together. You can weave in the dark modes with these lights. They're fabulous.
No more sleeping for us.
Oh,
No
no, if you want to thread or if you
There
want
we
to
are.
weave, I mean,
And
they're,
those nights sneaking in some weaving.
yeah, they're awesome.
Yeah.
Every little loom I have has it.
All right. This is my most favorite, and it's when I knew that Nancy Chronister is a genius. If you have weaving software, particularly like Fiberworks, you can print off your threading and your treadling on a piece of paper. Then you can take this Post-it note, and I have the name, it's, you know, the real name for it is in your, number 17 is in your handout. You know, this is Post-it note tape, and it's completely sticky. Then you put your Post-it note tape right over your threading that you just printed out, and you print it one more time, and it prints right on the Post-it tape.
Wow.
You can put that on the back of your loom and thread. You can put it on your beater bar and treadle. And it is, you know, it has been life-changing for me. I know, it is my favorite thing. And, you know, if you have a pattern where you've got a lot of color changes and things, you know, you make sure you have your color bars done in your weaving program. It just makes life so much easier to have that. And here, you know, here I have it with treadling. I've got a little bitty clothespin that you can get at the craft stores, and, you know, keep track of where I am. And I do love, you know, that is one of my favorite weaving hacks. When you're winding on, we're up to winding on your warp. I like to raise often, especially if I have a closely set warp, to raise a tabby shed. You know, I just stick a shuttle, you know, in that space to keep it open. It helps, you know, it separates the threads as they're going through. You know, it will not 100% prevent you from getting a broken thread, but it's a big help for that. So I like to open a shed, and when I do that, if you see here on the back, I have my my little treadling things. And this we learned from Deborah Harrison many years ago with using yarn
Yeah.
to put the sticks, which would be great if you don't have the space to put a leaf stick between, you know, from your front bar to your back bar. This is a big help to help with your tension, to get a really even tension wound on.
Robert hates that.
Was that
Every
a little
time I did that at school, Robert would cuss. He hated it.
But it's the best thing ever. It really is. And, you know, I just get leaf sticks, have rubber bands, you know, those covered hair rubber bands. I loop 2 of them together when where I need them to be big, and open up shed, put 1 dowel. It helps to have a friend to do it with. It's hard to open the shed and stick the dowel through. And then you wind on, and you take it all out, you know, before you go to tie on, and things like that. But it really does help with your tension.
So can I ask a question?
Yes, absolutely.
So are there dowels running perpendicular? You've got 4 dowels that are running.
These dowels go across your warp
Kind of like a.
and go into like tabby.
Yes.
You know, tabby A, tabby B, you know. This is just a least stick to hold the dowels. Now, when we used to do it with Deb, we didn't have fancy things like least sticks. We had to use yarn. But, which works great. And if you don't have a space, between your reed, you know, and the end of your, you know, of the beater, to stick a least stick in, you know, it's hard to use a least stick. Then you need to use the yarn. And you tie these sticks, again, on either side, you know, kind of loop them through, and wind on your warp. Take them out before you tie on. Okay?
Can I tell you a funny story about those?
Was that?
You know my giant cranbrook?
Yes.
I do it with closet rods, but the loom is too big for the room. So I aligned it with the window when I set it up. So when I have to put the rods in the warp, I have to open the window and stick them out and then put them in the shed. And then when it's time to take them out, I have to open the window, and it's always raining every time I do it.
Well, and you had locking treadles, so you could lock your treadle, and you could do that by yourself.
Yeah,
So if we need rain,
yeah.
You need to warp.
Tell me to work, yes.
But, you know, this is great, and I see this, you know, on the weaving Facebook pages and things like that, you know, you will see this. It is really, again, wonderful. It's so helpful to get your warp wound on.
It's from a book called Working All By Yourself.
Oh, good to know.
That's where I got it.
Good to know. And
okay, so
this was just to show how I've got the rubber bands looped to hold it. But they have commercial things called, they're called angel wings, or they're called, and I have it all in your handout, or tensioner. Tensioner?
Hairstyle tensioning.
And this is Nancy Chronister's. And again, this is, you know, this holds your rods, and it doesn't go through to the front, so you don't have to worry that your reed goes the whole length of your thing. But it just sits on the back. They make them for different looms. I have the information in your handout if you want to look up, you know, to get a commercial one as well. And Nancy loves hers, and you use it for back to front weaving, in that you
Although that's,
take your.
that was front to back threading, but I do use it on back to front to hold my lead sticks.
Hold their lead sticks, and
Well, I use that as.
and don't you thread from there? That holds you
Yes.
across, and you
Yes,
thread
yes,
from there.
yes.
Yes. So you can use it front to back, you know, front to back or back to front. So it's useful for everything. All right. This BJ sent me, and I love it, how she warps from back to front. Here we've got her Irwin clamp holding her rattle on. She doesn't have a castle on that loom, do you? So you have to have some way, you know, to put your castle. This is her trapeze.
Gigi, don't look, just
Oh,
kinda.
it's great.
And BJ did the cat, BJ did the
Two
cat
psychologists did
as
that,
well.
not a pretty thing.
It
works.
But
It works.
using a trapeze is a great way. We had a workshop many years ago where we warped with trapezes, and
It's
Katie
so
Meek,
easy.
and she brought all the trapezes, and we used it, but especially we did it with linen, and it was very helpful for that. She's got it connected with Velcro. Velcro also very helpful for many weaving things. And here you can see a better view of her trapeze and her warp with the weights, and there's another picture with the weights, with her heavy weights as she winds on. And again, this is a way where that helps you wind on. This is back to front warping to help you wind on without a lot of problems. And then she's gotten all over the trapeze. She takes the trapeze from the loom, so now it's here, coming over the front, and now it's going to be ready to thread. And she's got her leaf sticks there with her cross, ready to thread her back to front warp, and it is already wound on neatly with good tension on her back beam, ready to go. So I am not much of a back to front warper, so you will have to check with Nancy and BJ and some of our other back to front warpers if you want more information. But this is a great way to warp back to front, and the trapeze are very, very useful for that. Weights. Lots of reasons we use weights, and I list lots of them in the handout. The bolts, I got Wendy's eye bolts, and you can add washers to make them heavier, take washers off to make them lighter. They're good for floating selvages, they're good for broken threads. Hopefully I love, this is Janine's, with, I call them easy bobs.
Yeah.
With the easy bob that you can wind your thread on, and she's got her nice weight, her fishing weight. Fishing weights, again, fishing weights, wonderful. There's so many things you can do with fishing weights. So this is great. Janine, wonderful. You made that. But shower curtain rings with the weights, with fishing weights, little S hooks. There's lots of ways. Here you can see there's a shower curtain ring with a fishing weight. There's a prescription bottle, and I'm sure it's got pennies or a fishing weight or something inside. Again, for your floating selvages, as you weave, your floating selvages are not being taken up with the same speed, so they're going to start getting looser. Broken thread, you need to hang it off the back and weight it. So there's always a need for weights, and there's so many ways to do it. Again, you find what works for you. We've often used, we used to use film canisters, and I still have quite a collection of film canisters, but we don't have those anymore. Oh, and again, this is another hack that has changed my life. Is you have a cross thread, a broken thread. It was always so irritating for me. I couldn't ever get at the thread I needed. It was always too dense, and it would keep moving, and I would get them crossed more. A comb just keeps everything separate. Just makes it so much easier. But if you want something a little fancier than a comb, it was kind of nice at the conference. the Austin Guild made these little warp separators for all the attendees at the conference this summer. And that's what this is right here. And again, it holds your thread and it holds your warp away from it, so you can concentrate on that one thread that needs fixing. On the very last page, I just have a little sketch of one. You can do it on heavy cardboard or foam board, or and you can have your own if you want a pretty warp separator. You can make a pretty warp separator, or you can just get a comb. But I do love the comb. It makes things much easier, much less frustrating for me. One thing I haven't mentioned was I've taken several tips and tricks classes at conferences. And one of them was with Robin Spady. And this was her little book that she gave us for taking in her class. And some of these tips are hers, and I do have her name by them. This is to do a repair heddle or a rescue heddle. You know, you've got your loom all threaded and you find out you've misthreaded a thread. There's no heddles anywhere close by. Yes, you know, you need to tie a string heddle. So I like that Robin suggests you do a, you know, you get a block of wood. You may need to see Janine. Get your block of wood. You know, I traced my heddle on it, and you put, you know, headless nails at the top and the bottom, and then where you need to tie your knots for, you know, for the space to put your thread through for your eye. And with the safety pins, then you can just pin it to the top and the bottom, you know, and not have to worry about tying it and getting it right in the middle. I'm sure all of y'all, when you tie yours, you get them exactly in the middle. Yours are never too high or too low, which was always my problem. But first one I made, which is this little pink one here, with the little safety pin, and it just like the perfect fit for my handlebar, but it is too perfect a fit, and it was way too difficult to put it on the handlebar. So get a bigger safety pin to put on your handlebar to make your rescue heddle.
Right.
Yes.
You can get headless safety pins at a quilt store.
Yeah, and you can
Yes.
get ones without the coilless.
That's true, but that's not what I have in my home.
I think they use them.
But yes, they do, which would be even better. That should be even better to do that with. Absolutely. Okay. Oh, this is another one I love. All right, you have a variegated weft. And so, you know, you wind your bobbin and you're weaving your variegated weft, and then, oh, time to wind another bobbin. Oh, wait, it doesn't match. It's not, the colors are not doing the same thing. So sometimes it can look completely different. So in order to avoid that problem, take your variegated yarn and you want to wind off bobbins, you know, at least, you know, as many bobbins as you think you will need to finish the piece, and probably a little extra just to make sure. All right, and you're going to number them. All right, number 1, that's the first bobbin I wound. Number 2, the second bobbin. Number 3, the third bobbin.
Is that blue painter's tape I see?
What's that?
Is that blue painter's tape?
That is blue painter's tape. With my blue painter's tape, I've labeled them 1, 2, and 3. So now I'm ready to weave. When I go to weave, I'm going to start with number 3. I'm going to start with the last bobbin I wound and use them in reverse order and weave with them 3, 2, 1. And that way, each color will lead into the next one without, there are some people that they wind them and then they rewind them and they wind them. It's way too complicated. This is the easy way. You'll colors, when you have a variegated, you only need to do it when you have a variegated yarn.
You want to keep that
But-
variegation out of
And you want to keep that, you know, I'll tell the story. John D. Arment was, if you know him from the school, had woven a variegated yarn. Everybody knows this story. And he, you know, he just wound a bobbin and wove with it, wound the next bobbin and wove with it, and it was getting sort of a stripy pattern. And then all of a sudden, he started getting big color blocks.
Not done perfect.
And this scarf would look like two completely different scarves in one. So
Not what he was planning.
It does
he was
not
not
come
a
out in
happy
the wash.
camper. He was not happy at all.
Can you hear it?
So you can avoid that problem.
Oh.
Yes.
Well, I was just knitting once, and I bought all the yarn, it was the same dye lot, or it was supposed to be the same dye lot, and the color changed on the last ball of yarn, so it wasn't the same.
When you switch to a different ball of yarn, you know, that, you know, that, you're gonna have to maybe find where it starts again. But if you're using, you know,
If you're just using one, it's
one, when you go to the second one, you're just gonna have to find where the next color would be.
It changed.
And hope that that it met, that it does the same way. Okay, oh, tarp clip temples, these are all over the internet as well. Temples are great for keeping your warp the right width so you don't have draw in. And there's people that love them and there's people that hate them. We won't get into that tonight. But and they sell beautiful temples, but it starts to get expensive. And they're different sizes, you know. You may not have the temple that fits your, you know, the piece that you're doing. Then you need to buy a new temple. So, you can make your own temple with tarp clips, and again, they're available Walmart, yeah, and you know, lots of places. And you want to hang a weight on them. The issue can sometimes be you don't have anything to hold your to hold the weight away. Here's a picture, and I got this off the internet where they just put like a leaf stick here to hold it. You can get a hook and put a hook on your loom.
Command hooks are great.
Command hooks. Command hooks. Yes.
Would
Or
you
great
need a
for lots
really
of
heavy
things.
weight? Does it have to
What's
be
that?
really heavy weight?
Fishing weight, yes, but you want to have, you know, I
Depending on how
just
much
put
weight
one
you
weight
want.
on here for demonstration purposes, but you need it to be heavy enough to hold out your selvages so that there's no drawing.
So what kind of clip is that? I never heard of such a thing.
So what's that?
I never heard of such a clip.
Tarp clip. People use them in camping with tarps. You know, like camping tarps?
Yeah.
And again, those are all over the internet. They're really popular right now. Netting shuttles. And these were used a lot in a lot of classes this summer at the conference, which was nice. They're available on Amazon, or you might find some in your grandmother's sewing basket. They make great little mini shuttles. If you know, I was doing a piece and I had 3 different colors going across, and so you know, it was so much easier to have the little netting shuttles than bigger shuttles, or even the little tapestry shuttles. You know, I just found these very easy to use. You know, you wrap your yarn around them, and they're just very convenient. If you weave at the Southwest School of Art, they have a little container with them. I know upstairs they do. And this is Elizabeth Shrivastava, and I love this hint with the needle. And Elizabeth, if I don't explain it correctly, help me out here. But you know, you ever get where you've got an end that's, and not just in weaving, but in lots of things, you know, you've got an end and it's just too short to pull back in. Well, you can put your needle in, and then you put that short end in the loop, and then you know, so you've got it kind of lassoed, and you pull it, and it follows that loop, and you can pull it in when it's too short, like to put in a needle and weave it in. Is that correct, Elizabeth?
Yes. That's like the dental floss.
It is like the dental floss, but a little sharper.
Yeah.
But so the needle, it's the same. It's the same.
I need that tomorrow.
Same concept, but there's often times where I'm going, I just can't get that needle. I know what to do now. So thank you, Elizabeth, and so that's really helpful. Magnetic knife bar available at Amazon. Nancy's got it on her loom. You can put your treadling there. That's the Post-it tape. You can, you know, put it, you know, she's got her needle there ready to go. Very handy. I like Nancy Summers uses a cork strip. You can pin. You can put a pin in your treadling to keep your place. Pin notes, you know, 3 inches of hem, not 2.5. Things like that. This is another great hint. If you have a long warp, if you have a long repeat, weaving, you know, repeat, treadling repeat, because it's easy to get lost or you find a mistake in the middle. But Nancy Summers very cleverly puts a little sewing thread there at the beginning of that treadling repeat and at the end, or at the next beginning, so that if there is a problem, you know, she knows where to count from. She knows where it started. She knows where that treadling repeat started. She knows where to, you know, where to go. And like I said, if you've got long treadling repeats, this is really so helpful to do and save you a lot of heartache and unweaving, you know, trying to find out where you are, where, you know, how many rows back and things like that. We have a couple things. Nancy suggested you can put a sewing thread in your hemline, like if you're hemming a towel or a blanket or something. Robin Spady suggests a thick yarn. So that's one of the things, you try it both ways and see what works for you. Make it easier to fold that hemline, have a straight hem, tells you exactly where to fold it
So do you pull
when
that
you're
out?
making your hem.
You pull that out too?
Yes, and you pull it out.
You pull it out and then
You pull it out, and then you've got a
little break.
you know where to make your fold.
But if you wash it before you hem it, your fibers can interlock and make it not as easy as it sounds to pull those threads out. I don't know how I would know that.
Did you have a thin one or a thick one? Do you
I
remember?
think it might have been the same way, just an
Oh.
alternate color, or it might have been 2, but it,
Robin Spady says with a thick one that it's easy to pull out.
but I wonder if she washed it.
And she doesn't say.
Yeah.
So.
Just note to self, don't use wool.
But I can see wool would really be a problem, but yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah.
In Sweden, they do 2 picks at the fold line, 2 of the same in the same shed. So,
And leave
Which
it
would be like a
in.
little
Yeah.
thicker.
And then they could leave it in, because it's
because
part
it
of the pattern.
folds easier.
Well, that's a good idea, that it would fold on that line.
Yeah.
That's a great idea.
It wasn't on those Swedes.
Oh, I love those sweets.
Okay. Oh, twisting your fringe. Donna is a great French twister, and she just always has them so nice and even. You know, there's our blue painter's tape again. You know, to measure your distance, help you trim where you know, how long you want your fringe to be. And of course, and there's nothing better if you don't, and there are people that are religiously opposed to hair twisters, but that, again, changed my life.
I agree.
To twist fringe with the hair twister. And no, you can't count how many twists you go. I didn't realize that that was really important, that there's many people on the internet that count how many twists they do.
They need to get a lot.
Anyway, and again, they do have them on Amazon. I think the Woolery has them. But you know, you use your hair twister to twist your fringe. When you know, Donna uses a double-pointed needle as she makes her knot. You can see she's got a ruler here, so she knows exactly where that knot needs to be to stop and tighten that knot around that needle, so that you've got even fringe, which is quite a concept. So yes, that's a great way to have beautiful fringe. You too can have beautiful twisted fringe.
Nice manicure too.
Yeah, yes, she did have a nice
It's my
manicure.
personality.
Some of us.
Donna, do you have a hole drilled in your ruler to stick the point of your
No.
knitting needle?
But you could.
I could, but I don't.
But they're different, they're different.
Mine has a hole.
Well, but some of my friends, I go by the longest. I comb out the fringe and then I cut it both ends the same. Because I have been known to have fringe longer on one end than the other because I started with the long end. I know, it was a concept too. So I'd lay both ends together, comb it out, cut them so that they're both the same. So putting a hole in there, my fringe is not always the same length on every scarf because I do like long fringe and thin fringe. So I don't have a hole in mine.
I have a 12-inch plastic ruler, and then I have 6, 4, 8 with little holes there.
You drilled it into it?
Yeah, so that whenever you're knitting,
I just moved my tape.
That's why I told her to close her eyes.
it just helps.
Waiting on me.
If you want to put beads on your fringe, on your fringe that you're going to twist, and again, these little dental floss were life-changing. And you put a bead on the straight end, you put your thread through there, and you just pull it down, and it is magically.
It is magic.
It is magic.
It is magic.
Magically on the thread like that.
I don't care how many times I do that. It
There's
is
dental
magic.
flossers. You get them
Yeah, I know
in
about
the
that.
next to the toothpaste.
I know about
But all right.
Where do you put the bead?
Okay. You put the bead on the straight part. You put the bead on the straight part.
Okay.
You put your thread through the loop, and then you pull the bead down,
It's a little needle thread.
and
Okay.
it goes
I needed a little remedial.
through
That's-
there.
that is
And I've got one
life-changing,
here for
too.
you to practice.
That's how all these.
You
and I both.
Great to have things. My loom at home, I don't have a castle, so I found this little half basket that hangs on the side and put, you know, the supplies that I like to have right here close. Rosa's got an over-the-door hook on her castle where she keeps her grabber, so that when you drop that shuttle, again,
Sandy's still looking for baskets.
You can just pick it
Oh
up
my gosh, I can see her.
and, no bad words. Ross insists that this is gonna keep her from going to hell. These are just really handy things, bungee cords, shoelaces, and a lot of that I have in the handout, ways you can use them, Velcro, little Velcro strips, and the rubber bands with the safety pins, you know, come in very handy. Donna can, you know, secures her wolf trap with it and secures her warp bar.
A 10-second hack. When I'm taking heddles off and on,
Yes.
metal heddles, I always use a stitch holder and knitting, the ones that look like giant safety pins.
Yes.
They keep all the heddles aimed in the correct direction.
Yes,
I
very good.
Love my stitch.
But, you know, shoelaces, Jeanette, I know shoelaces, you can tie up so many things, you know, as you're doing your warping and things. Very handy to have things like this around and to use them.
I like to use I found I like to use the shoelace and the cross, because it.
To tie your cross with a shoelace.
I don't have to pick through and find another thread, it just comes out very easily. That's good.
If you need to wind from a cone and have it horizontal and not vertical, a nitty knotty, if you're a spinner and you have a lazy Kate, excuse me, a lazy Kate, you can use that, or a bin with holes in it and a knitting needle.
You do it because you don't want to affect the spin, especially of linen. That's why you
Yes.
do it horizontal.
Yes.
And unmercerized cotton.
Oh, okay, good to know.
Again, this program would not have been possible without the generosity and ingenuity of the members of the San Antonio
That's
Hand
a
Weavers
lot of
Guild.
work.
My thanks to
Yes.
all. Well, these bag clips, which again, you know, are
Life-changing.
life-changing, really so helpful to hold your yarn and stuff, so they're also a great thing. But thank you for sending